Welcome back.
Greetings, Sentinels! This is Universe Unique, and today, the truth comes to light. Have you noticed the level of paranoia surrounding the production of The Batman 2? We're not just talking about standard security measures. We're talking about encrypted codes, armored cases, and a script that can only be opened with a separate access key. What exactly is Matt Reeves hiding? Because if the production is operating with this level of secrecy, it means something big is coming. And that's why, if this type of content connects you with the most impactful news and the most well-founded theories from the nerd universe, subscribe right now. We're close to reaching an important milestone on this channel, and your support is what makes it possible. It's not just a subscription, it's your front row seat to the multiverse. So thank you for being part of this. And tell me this, from what city and country are you watching this video? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. Now let's get into what Matt Reeves tried to keep hidden, but couldn't. Matt Reeves isn't just any director, and when he announced that he had finished the script for The Batman 2, he didn't do it in a flashy press conference or a loud tweet. He revealed it with a restrained smile, almost like dropping a clue in the middle of a detective investigation. But the most striking detail isn't that the script is complete. It's how he delivered it to Robert Pattinson. According to Reeves, the document was sent inside a high-security case, encrypted, and locked with a code transmitted separately. Straight out of the very world Reeves himself created. Pattinson received the package but couldn't open it. Reeves told him, "I'll send you the code now." Minutes later, they were on FaceTime discussing what Robert had just read. And this is where it gets interesting. Reeves isn't selling just another blockbuster. As he explained, this story will be more investigative, more intimate, more dangerous. And the level of security around the script isn't only about avoiding leaks or spoilers. It's about the type of film he's making, one that works like a puzzle, where if a single piece gets out, the whole experience falls apart. Which raises the unavoidable question, what secrets are locked inside that script? Reeves didn't say it's bigger, he said it's better. And that what he's doing with Bruce Wayne and Batman has never been done before. But there's something else. An emotional clue hidden in all of this that most people missed. And it might point to the true heart of this sequel. That is what we'll break down in the next section. If this content is connecting you with the hottest news and theories in the nerd universe, hit the triple kill. Like, comment, and share. The delay of The Batman 2 was not just about scheduling conflicts, or even the writers' and actors' strikes. Matt Reeves himself hinted that the postponement was also a deeply personal process. And coming from a filmmaker who dissects the psychology of his characters like clinical cases, that changes how we see this sequel entirely. Reeves admitted he needed time. Not to craft a bigger spectacle, but to build the best story possible. That statement carries weight. In Hollywood, time is often used as an excuse, but here, it's a symptom. The script took longer because it was being refined down to the smallest detail. Bruce Wayne's evolution couldn't be rushed. What they're about to tell isn't just a continuation. It's a reinterpretation of the myth. There's another detail that seems minor, but isn't. Reeves said that when he handed the script to Robert Pattinson, he was nervous. Not out of insecurity, but because he knew that if Pattinson didn't feel it, no one would. Pattinson is Batman in this universe. If he couldn't connect with the story, the entire project could collapse. Fortunately, or through surgical precision, the reaction was immediate. Pattinson was thrilled. He said it was unlike anything he had ever read before. That reaction has a clear root. What the script sets up for Bruce Wayne has never been done before. Not in film, not in animated adaptations, not even in the darkest corners of the comics. And if Reeves is so focused on protecting that core, it's because what will be revealed in this film could redefine this Batman's place in the larger DC mythology. So, what could justify such a deep internal transformation? What kind of threat or dilemma pushes Bruce to such a breaking point? If the first film was already dense, this one seems to be aiming beyond noir and thriller, toward a full identity crisis. And there's one key line that gives us a clue, but it hides a contradiction most people haven't noticed. That's what I'll explain next. What began as a secondary character in the Batman has become one of the emotional and narrative pillars of Matt Reeves' universe. Oswald Cobblepot, the Penguin. But not the caricatured version, and not the grotesque one either. This Penguin breathes power, conceals tragedy, and in the spin-off series becomes something even more dangerous. Someone who fully understands Gotham's rules and bends them from within. From the start, Reeves knew Colin Farrell was doing something special. Even before filming began, when the first makeup tests were shot, Reeves received videos of Farrell performing as the character in front of a mirror, and he didn't recognize him. The transformation wasn't only physical, it was visceral. There was a different energy, a way of looking at the world that didn't fit anything this universe had shown before. That was when the idea of expanding his story was born. The most important point is that The Penguin isn't just a series about a villain. It's a psychological dive, a dissection of criminal ascent told from the perspective of the monster. That change of viewpoint shifts everything. In The Batman, Oswald was a satellite, another pawn on Carmine Falcone's board. Here, he's the lead. And by placing us inside his mind, Gotham itself becomes darker, more corrupt, more real. Reeves explained it clearly. In a film, everything revolved around Bruce Wayne. In the series, the axis is Penguin himself. That opens the door to explore shadows the pacing of cinema doesn't allow. Moral compromises, emotional abandonment, invisible trauma. These emerge when the camera stops judging the character and simply follows him. And here's the unsettling part. Despite the crimes and the violence, Colin Farrell never plays Oswald as a traditional villain. He doesn't condemn him. He doesn't exaggerate him. He humanizes him. And that creates discomfort. Because it makes you understand, though not excuse, the logic of his world. And once that happens, the viewer is no longer sure who really holds control in Gotham. That's the core contradiction. The Batman was about a hero trying to impose order. The Penguin is about an anti-hero thriving in chaos. If both exist in the same city, then Gotham has already chosen. Which raises the inevitable question: if this story keeps unfolding, which one of the two will survive at the top? There's a deleted scene that may hold the answer, and it's not the one most expect. When Matt Reeves talks about other Batman characters possibly getting their own series, he doesn't speak casually. He does it like someone who has already explored those paths, already spoken with executives, and maybe already has more than one concept on the table. While he didn't confirm anything outright, he made it clear those conversations exist, and that there's enough material to expand the universe far beyond Bruce and Oswald. The current priority, according to him, is locking down a second season of The Penguin if they find a story that surpasses the first. But the fact that he speaks in plural, we have several ideas, and mentioned discussions with Dylan Clark and HBO about possible developments, shows that this universe is far from exhausted. Who could be next? That's where it gets interesting. If we use the first film as a reference, some characters were only hinted at, but carry enormous potential. Selina Kyle, for instance, already has an emotional arc outlined. Her relationship with Bruce remains open. Her family history was barely touched, and her perspective on Gotham is radically different. A series centered on her could straddle noir and emotional thriller, exploring the underworld from an angle neither Batman nor Penguin could offer. But there's another character almost no one talks about, even though he was already teased in cut promotional material: Harvey Dent. While he didn't appear in The Batman, rumors and concept art of him did circulate. And Reeves's realistic tone would fit perfectly with a pre-Two-Face story, showing Dent as a prosecutor trying to maintain legal order in a city determined to sink. And then there's the Riddler. Paul Dano delivered a disturbing performance that meshed perfectly with the film's psychological tone. While his arc was closed, we know he's alive, locked in Arkham. A spin-off focused on his mental decline, or on his network of followers, could directly connect to the social terror we saw sprout through his imitators. Gotham doesn't get cleaned up with one arrest. It mutates. Reeves knows it. The question isn't if there will be more spin-offs, but when, and from what angle. The Penguin already proved this universe breathes better when it leaves behind the simple hero versus villain mold and dives into the gray areas. There's one name circulating in internal forums that fits that pattern perfectly. But this one isn't hero or villain. It's something in between, and its arrival could change the rules of the game. I'll break that down in the next section. When a director openly claims his new film will surpass the previous one, skepticism is natural. Hollywood is full of inflated promises, with sequels that raise budgets and effects, but lose their soul in the process. But in Matt Reeves' case, the statement doesn't sound like marketing. It sounds like personal conviction, and that carries far more weight. Reeves doesn't promise something epic, bigger, or apocalyptic. His promise is subtler, yet more ambitious. A script that takes Bruce Wayne into emotional and psychological territory never explored before. And he doesn't present it as a slogan. He details it. He mentions his collaboration with Dylan Clark, the patient rewriting of the script, and the moment he handed it to Pattinson with a mix of nerves and pride. They weren't seeking speed. They were seeking narrative perfection. This redefines everything. If the first Batman was already a noir-tinged thriller, the sequel seems set on an even more introspective structure. Reeves confirmed the core will be a detective story, more mystery-driven, focused on its impact on the protagonist's psyche. That points to less action, but more breakdown, more internal layers, more duality. And if we recall the ending of the first film, Bruce is no longer the same. He's realized fear isn't enough. Violence doesn't build justice. Gotham needs more than vengeance. So the real question is, how does a symbol transform without destroying itself? Because if Batman stops being the shadow that punishes, what does he become? The key may lie in a line Reeves dropped almost unintentionally. He said what this story does for Bruce and Batman has never been done this way before. That separation between identity and symbol isn't accidental. In the comics, when Bruce has faced similar internal fractures, such as in The Dark Knight Returns or 0 Year, the result has always been a point of no return, a paradigm shift, a trauma that redefines the role of the Dark Knight. So if the film explores that rupture, what kind of narrative threat could push him there? It doesn't seem like a conventional villain. Everything points to a quieter threat, more ideological, and maybe closer to him than we think. Because if the enemy is already inside Gotham, sharing his mindset but without moral boundaries, then we're talking about something very specific. And yes, we've seen hints of it before, though not under that name. That's what I'll reveal in the next section. The coexistence of multiple universes under the same studio has been one of DC's most debated strategies for years. With James Gunn now leading the new DCU, many wonder whether Matt Reeves' Batman will eventually be absorbed, erased, or sidelined. But the answer, at least for now, is clear. No. This Batman does not belong to Gunn's main canon. It exists under the Elseworlds label. And that is more than just a label. It means Reeves has full creative freedom to build his narrative without being tied down by the shared universe. He doesn't need to connect to Superman, justify parallel events, or align his tone with a broader editorial direction. His Gotham is its own microcosm. His Bruce Wayne is a figure entirely separate from any other version DC is building at the same time. James Gunn explained this clearly back in January 2023, when he introduced the first phase of the new DCU. He said there would be room for standalone stories, as long as they were well justified, like Todd Phillips' Joker and Reeves' Batman. These are author-driven stories, visions that don't try to fit in, but instead explore. And that decision is strategic. It allows the studio to keep successful franchises alive without directly contradicting the new main line, while still generating attention, prestige, and box office success. But there's a subtler layer to this. Even though Reeves is not part of the DCU's core creative team, he has remained in regular conversations with the studio heads. He has made it clear that his priority is completing the new film and, if possible, delivering a second season of The Penguin. But he also added something more ambiguous. There are things they already know we'd like to do. That statement suggests openness. not to merging universes, but to coordinating future moves. Because if Elseworlds continues alongside the DCU, there could be a point of intersection down the line, a special event, an anthology film, or even a subtle appearance without direct continuity. In the comics, this has happened before. Crisis on Infinite Earths, Flashpoint, Convergence. All mixed timelines for narrative reasons, not structural ones. And this is where things get interesting. Because if Gunn wants to build a cohesive universe, while Reeves continues developing his independently, what happens if audiences start preferring the darker realism of the latter? And what if the DCU, despite all its planning, fails to generate the same emotional connection? There's already a recent precedent that divided the studio internally, and it didn't involve Batman. It was another character, one that had two active versions on screen at the same time. The way Warner resolved that conflict could be the key to understanding what's coming next, and it could also hint at which characters might be at risk. I'll explain that in the conclusion. Matt Reeves mentioned it casually, as if dropping an idea without commitment, but the seed has been planted. There is space for more characters. The universe he has built isn't just a reinterpretation of Batman, it's a dramatic ecosystem. And if Penguin worked as a protagonist, who else could carry a story just as heavy? The answer isn't as obvious as Selina Kyle, even though her arc remains open. Nor is it Harvey Dent, whose name wasn't even mentioned in the first film. The real clue lies in how Reeves builds his narratives, around moral fragility, around doubt. And there is one character who already appeared, almost as a whisper, but whose shadow is more dangerous than any supervillain, Edward Nashton. Yes, the Riddler was defeated, but he wasn't destroyed. His mind is still active, his network is still alive, and his obsession with Batman has only just begun. A spin-off centered in Arkham, with Nashton as the central thread, could explore not only his psychological decline, but also the institutional corruption Gotham cannot shake. Something in the vein of Mindhunter. But with the horror of knowing the monsters aren't only locked away. Some wear suits and run the city. Reeves also discussed the possibility of revisiting Penguin, but only if the new material surpasses what came before. That's his rule. No repetition, no squeezing a character dry. Move forward only if there's something meaningful to tell. And that rule reveals something important about his long-term vision. This universe doesn't aim to be infinite. It aims to be coherent. If it succeeds, it could become the strongest legacy DC has ever built outside its official canon. That's why what happens in The Batman 2 is more than just a sequel. It's a domino piece. And if it falls in the right direction, it opens the door to something bigger. Not bigger in quantity, but in depth. Because what defines this universe isn't how many characters appear. It's how human, and dangerously real, they feel. And now I want to know something from you. From which city, or even which country, are you watching this video? Let me know in the comments, I read them all. It's incredible how this universe connects us across so many different places. And if this video helped you better understand what's being built around Batman, make sure to subscribe. We're close to reaching an important milestone for the channel, and your support is what allows us to keep investigating, analyzing, and sharing every new detail of this universe. It's not just a click, it's your direct pass to never miss what's coming next. Because I assure you, the best has yet to be revealed.